Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mind Your Mission. Today, we just wanted to share a little life update because, as you probably know, if you've been listening to us for any amount of time, that we had babies in November, and our maternity leave is actually coming to an end in a couple weeks. So that means we're both headed back to work soon, and this season has been really sweet, and I feel like it caused us both to reflect a lot on motherhood and working and what we've learned during our maternity leave. And we've also reflected on how we want to structure the podcast once we do return to work, since our time will be a little bit more limited. Stay tuned. So stay tuned for an announcement at the end where we're going to announce something exciting and kind of explain like the format going forward.
Yeah, I feel like in a lot of ways, having a baby in November was like perfect timing. You're big pregnant in the fall, like you can start wearing sweaters when you're huge pregnant and all this stuff, and you're not too hot. And then you get the holidays at home with a newborn and just resting and slowing down. And winter naturally becomes like a slower season anyway. And so it's almost a built in excuse to just stay inside, rest, and just focus on family. But then April comes and the weather gets beautiful. Like April's on the horizon, everything outside starts coming back to life. And I realize now that that's exactly when maternity leave ends. And so it's hard to go back right when it feels like the perfect time to be outside. And I really didn't think about that aspect of the timing, but here we are. At least the evenings are lighter, so we can have that time, I guess, to go outside when we get home from work. But yeah, I didn't really think about that aspect of the timing, but here we are, midway through March, and yeah, I go back first week of April. So go.
Yeah, this season, even though I guess it's been cold for a lot of it, it has been super sweet. And like you said, I am glad it's lighter at night so that when we do get home from work, you can like go for a walk and actually enjoy the evenings. But even though this has been a sweet season, it definitely has also been like one of the hardest seasons of my life, but like a sweetheart, if that makes sense. But I remember looking back at like the first 6 weeks I had with my son. My husband was at home and he was on paternity leave. And I feel like we had family in town for the holidays. And that time was just really sweet and peaceful. And we were all together, like soaking in the newborn days, figuring everything out together. It was super fun. And then I've talked about this before, but I feel like our life kind of got turned upside down because he was supposed to play in March, which would be now. But we found out like 2 days before he was deploying in January, when I don't even think James was 6 weeks old. I think he was like 5.5 or something. And everything changed, and I had to like completely adapt overnight to something I didn't expect coming. I thought I'd have him for at least a few more months. So he got deployed within like a couple of days notice, and he was gone for 2.5 months, which is about what we thought. And I know in the grand scheme of things, that's like really not that long. There's so many military families, like Navy families. He was on the boat with Marines who'd been away from their babies for like 5 months and left when they were like a day old, and they get through deployments that last so much longer. But it was still like a really challenging season for me. But I also learned so much. It was also a whirlwind because he was supposed to come back in early March, but I know that that is never, they always go past the dates they say. And then once I get started being early March, they had extended the boat he was on. And so they were going to extend them until May. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was really hard. I feel like that was like the hardest point because I was looking forward to him coming back, and all of a sudden it was going to be like 2 more months. And so I was pretty upset about it, but I just like prayed that God would bring him home if that was his will. And then I think like 2 days before they were supposed to come home, he came home on like earlier this week, and we found out a couple days before that he was coming home. So it was like a whirlwind of like emotions and everything going on, but I think it like worked out like perfect timing really, because he was supposed to be gone when I was going back to work, which would have been a lot. So it really worked out in the best way possible that he's now going to be home for a little bit. And I'm really grateful that we're going to get these next couple weeks. He has staying down for a couple weeks, which lines up with my 2 weeks of maternity leave that I have left. So I'm really excited that we're going to be able to actually spend this time together. We're going to Florida, and like I think that's like a hack, is to have a trip at the end of your maternity leave, because I feel like I am dreading going back to work, but I haven't really been sitting in it that much because I'm like excited for our trip. So it's kind of helped with the like grieving maternity leave process. It's all to say that basically my entire maternity leave has been spent like trying to figure out how to be a mom, basically all on my own. Like we don't have family here. Like I flew home to Indiana for like a few days, but that's really all the help I have had. If looking back, like weeks 6 to like 12 were definitely like the hardest. Like 1 to 6, I feel like you're like on adrenaline and it's like fun and new. And then 6 to 12, you're like, this is getting difficult. And then at like 12, it started getting better again. But every baby is different. And I feel like at the end of my maternity leave, I'm finally starting to like get my groove and like feel confident
Mhm.
in motherhood and all that. But looking back, even though this season has been hard trying to figure it out all on my own, it's also been like so special to get watch him grow and getting to know him and like build that bond. Like we just are have a super close bond, I feel like already, and he's only a few months old just because it's he only really knows me, but he's gonna have to get to know other people. And it's just crazy the amount of love that you could feel for your own child. Like I know people say that, but like your heart just expands in ways that you didn't even know were possible. And yeah, so that's been amazing to get to feel that love. I feel like every week something like crazy would happen to me when Matt was gone, which this stuff happens to me when he's here, but normally he can just like handle it. And so it's like less of a burden on me. But when you're the sole one like figuring out all of life's problems, it can be a lot. So I was like, I'll just share some of the funny things. So the day that Matt left, I think he left at like 3 a.m. Anyways, I was like, it was a nice day. The weather was nice. So I was like, oh, I'll go for a walk. And so I went to a park that's like a 1.5 mile loop, like around a lake, and I lost like my wallet, which had like fallen off because I like strapped it to the baby carrier and it had my car keys on it. And so I'm like baby wearing James. I had my dog too. So it was like a whole thing. And I didn't have my car keys to even like get in the car to like feed him or even go home. So I was like, great. And I don't have a husband to call to like go get the extra key if like I can't find it. So I was gonna have to like call a friend or do something. Anyways, but then a mom had found it. I like was searching for it on the trail, and a mom had actually found it and gave it to me because I was really worried someone was going to steal it and I would have no car. So that was like the first day Matt left. So that was fun. And because my brain is like thinking, it's so easy to forget stuff as a mom because you have so much stuff on your mind, like, oh, I need to get this and this and this. And there's just so much you have to think about that you forget like little things like that, which is how probably all these small things happen to me. And then I also had to take I think maybe a week later, maybe it was, no, it was probably a couple weeks later. I had to take my son to the ER, which I'm not going to get into, but that was definitely not on my postpartum bingo card. Everything's fine. Everything was fine, but it was traumatic experience for me. And then the other day I was checking out at Costco with a full cart. Like I completely checked out and was going to pay. And then I realized Costco doesn't take American Express. So it's like, I have one Visa card and I had used it that morning because I had like had to use it for something online. So I left it on my nightstand. So I like didn't pack it. And I was like, great. I can't even pay for my groceries. So thankfully like Matt had like Wi-Fi service or whatever. So I like left my groceries, went out to my car, called him, had to like get one of our cards on Apple Pay because I only have Amex on Apple Pay too, to get like a Visa card on Apple Pay. And then he had to like verify it through his bank. And it was like a whole thing. But finally I got my groceries. I was about to just go home and leave it, but I was like, no. I made it to Costco. Every time I go to Costco, it's like the worst day of my life too. I don't know what it is about Costco. It's
Oh my
just like
goodness.
never a good time. Anyways, then after that, this is probably like a week and a half ago. I don't know. The check engine light came out on my car. My car is like pretty new. It's like a few years old, but we bought it like less than a year ago. So it's like, I don't think this is anything. But I took it into the dealership and it was like a thermostat had failed or something. Thankfully, it was like covered by our warranty. So that was good at least. But they didn't have the part when I had gotten to the dealership. They were going to get it the next day. So like, oh, it'll be ready next day. Like you can either take it home and bring it back. And I was like, no, I just use my husband's car. Like I don't want to have to like come back and do that. Which I had started his car once since he's been gone and hadn't driven it at all. So I learned my lesson here with that. But anyways, I was getting ready to like go for a walk with a friend and the car didn't start. My friend came and tried to help me jump it, and we're two girls who've never jumped a car before. I feel like we got close. But then one of my neighbors was outside and I was like, hey, can you like jump my car? And he did it. So that was another thing. I jumped a car for the first time, even though I just went inside and he actually just did it because me and my friend's attempt was a fail. But I tried to learn how to do that. So,
Mhm.
and we don't even have jumper cables. So I like need to get that as well. So I probably should get like one that you don't have to like actually even connect to a car.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah. So well, it was like one thing after another this whole time that he's been gone, but it's fine. We got through it. And looking back, it's kind of funny. Like in the moment, it felt chaotic and I was overwhelmed, but it's also one of those seasons that you realize, like, oh, I can actually like handle more than I could. And I feel like it's also made my son super adaptable because I just like have to bring him everywhere with me. Like I got a pedicure, I just brought him, like, I was holding him. He's like giggling at everybody. Like he's just become super adaptable because I don't know if it's just a personality or it's because I've like dragged him along everywhere because I have literally no choice. And in the middle of all this chaos, I feel like there's also so much that I've like accomplished in this short season that I'm like really proud of. Like I started going to women's Bible study at my church, which is a lot to like drag a baby there and kind of intimidating. Like, what if he starts crying? But it has been a gift to like be able to connect with other people, especially like when I was like lonely and all that, and gave me something to do like during the week. And I also made it a point to get out of the house a lot with James. Like, I feel like we went on a lot of walks and we had little coffee shop dates and we went to the beach even for a day when the weather was nice. And so I feel like those are super fond memories. Like, I'm glad I didn't just spend my maternity leave. Like, it would have been easy just to spend it completely in my house, but I don't think that would have been good for me mentally. And it also like gave me some like fun memories to look back on. And also, like I said, made him like pretty adaptable to whatever I'm doing. And I also got back into running for the first time in like over a year after my hip surgery and pregnancy, which has been like, it's felt so good and been really significant for me. And I'm running my first 5K in a few weeks. Like, I'm not like have a pace goal or anything. I'm just like doing it to do it. And I'm excited for that. And running, I didn't know how hard it would be to get back into it. So I'm like super grateful that my body's been doing good with it and that it's been fun to get back into that. And we also went on a road trip. James and I went on a road trip to see Erin, which was fun. Our first, it wasn't that long. It's like 4 hours. So that did that by myself. And then I also had my first flight alone with him back home to Indiana. So I'm like, this Florida trip's going to be a piece of cake because
Mhm. You have 4 hands.
I have a husband to carry the bag. Yeah. I'm like, I don't have to worry about carrying like 6 bags myself. So when I look back at the season, I feel like it has stretched me a lot of ways, but it showed me something that's really important that I'm capable of more than I think. And I think the Lord allows us to walk through seasons like this, not because they're easy, but because they reveal strength and dependence on Him that we didn't know we had. Like, there are so many times that I just had to like rely on the Lord when I was in like an overwhelming situation or feeling lonely or didn't know what to do. And so it just showed me how to rely on the Lord. And like, moms are really can do so much. It's crazy. And I'm thankful for this season. I'm glad it's over. I know I'll have other seasons where my husband's deployed, so it's not like it's over for long, but I'm glad that we have a little bit of time together that we can spend time with him, and it's been sweet that Matt gets to, like, see James grow up, and now that he's at, like, more of a fun age too, where he's, like, more
Mhm.
interactive and smiling and giggling and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. Obviously, like, we were talking throughout maternity leave, and I was up to date on most of that, but when you talk about it all together like that, like, you endured a lot, Liz, and I'm really proud of you for your perseverance and just the grace that you had with yourself as you stepped into the new role alone, and just for your resilience through all those hard things and that you didn't try to do it on your own strength. And for all those like mom brain like things, I think one, what you said about having so much on your brain, like I always feel so silly telling Nolan when those things happen, but it's like, because they seem so dumb and so like, "Oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done that." But literally
Mm.
when you have so much running through your brain, like they're bound to happen, and I feel like one day we should do like a mom fails episode because I just yeah, even yesterday had a moment of like, "Wow, that was silly." It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it sounds very similar to my experience the first time around, and, like, when Nolan's gone, of course, that's when the things go wrong, and anyway, they're never it's I feel like it's never when he's here. I mean, maybe they do happen when he's here, but, like, he's just here to fix them, so, you
Yeah,
know.
like, you don't have to worry about it as much, like, I don't remember.
Exactly. Anyway, so just talking about my postpartum experiences go around, I feel like it's been very different for me, different than you. And different than my first experience, obviously the toddler factor plays a part, but also Nolan was here. I, like, had my family around for the holidays, and I wasn't ever really alone, like, during the day when he went to work, I was alone, of course, but it was different than you in that regard. But I feel like with 2 under 2 we did just choose to simplify, like, rather than trying to get out and do a bunch of things, which we did here and there, I kind of just leaned into being home, and honestly, like, finding fulfillment in the simple things is not something that is very easy for me, and it's a way that motherhood has kinda pushed me, like, we'll get into the tension that we feel about going back to work because it kinda ties into this, but let me just say motherhood is not easy. Like, some days my husband will come home and ask me what I did that day, and I'll tell him. And when I recap it, it doesn't sound like much. Like, we had breakfast, read some books, built some magnetile towers, ate lunch, nap time, etc. But, like, what doesn't get factored in is all those small moments of training that take place in the in between. All of those things can be strictly educational things, like teaching him his colors as we play with magnetiles, or body training, which we successfully tackled last week.
Yay!
I'm happy to report it's going really well. But then there's also like the training in godliness. It's teaching him how to wake up singing, "This is the day that the Lord has made," to talk about God's word as we eat our eggs, to talk about why the Tower of Babel didn't work out when our magna tile falls to the ground, to correct moments of disobedience and pray for him for self-control, like all of these things. Oh, and that doesn't even like begin to like tackle the tasks of homemaking and cleaning after every activity, I'll say, and dishes after every meal and loads of laundry, the mental load of meal planning and execution, trying to find time to work out. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I'm also feeding and entertaining a baby in there too. So all of that, like when I report to Nolan at the end of the day, it doesn't really sound like much. I don't really have much to show for what I did that day, but I really believe that in 5 to 10, like to 20 years from now, and especially like when we look at eternity, like there is a depth there. Like there's a depth to what looks ordinary on the surface. Anyways, it's been a good couple of months and just give me a glimpse of what's to come when we get out. It's a hard job, but a worthy one. I know we still have a year, but I'm just, I know motherhood is hard, but I'm really looking forward to leaning into that in a year. Like we only have a year. Like that's what I'm kind of like keep going back to. But how are you feeling about going back to work?
Well, I really don't wanna go back to work, like, I've kind of known that for a while, but, like, I feel even more, like, now that he's here, I'm like, "Wow, I'd just so much rather, like, be at home with you," and it takes out a lot of, like, complications that I'm like a lot of anxiety that I do have about I have in general is all linked to going back to work, and it being postpartum, like, postpartum anxiety is, like, a real thing, and I feel like going back to work really amplifies that with, like, the whole pumping and feeding and, like, trying to figure out how to balance working and my husband's schedule and like childcare, all that stuff. Like it really adds a lot to your plate. If I had the choice, like I would totally stay home with my son, but we have a commitment. We have another year left of work. And which, like you said, is kind of crazy to think about that we only have a year. Like we're almost there. And I'm hoping it goes by really fast. And we're getting pretty close then, which is exciting to think about. And that said, even though I don't want to go back, there are things like I do miss about work, like my friends at work. Like I love my coworkers and I always have like a good time with them and it'll be different like going back. Like I'm sure it'll get easier every day, but I am worried like how I'm going to be doing mentally going back. I wish I had the option to just quit and stay home, but it's not really a reality for us right now. And I know that's a reality like a lot of families face, whether it's like you're in the military and you have a commitment like us, or you don't have the money to be able to stay at home. Like there are a lot of reasons that women have to work even though they don't want to. And it's just really sad that we don't get the option to take more maternity leave, like take more unpaid leave. Like I wish we could do that or have the option to like quit our jobs. Like I just wished women had more options sometimes, but this is just the reality that some of us have to face. And at the beginning of my maternity leave, I thought 4 months was like a really long time. I was like, oh, it'll be so long. But now that I'm at the end of it, I'm like, this doesn't feel like nearly enough time at all. Something that I'm like frustrated with, like babies are recommended to breastfeed for like a year, so, like, why are we being forced to go back to work after like 4 months? Like, it just doesn't really make sense. And like, so many more women would be able to breastfeed if that like was the case. Because you go back to work, you're stressed, you don't have time, you lose your supply. It's like a whole thing, and there's just like a disconnect there in my mind. And other countries have way more maternity leave, and I don't know. I wish it was more of an option that we could take up to a year unpaid. So that's something I feel like I've been frustrated with on maternity leave, and childcare has been like so stressful and it's been one of the hardest things for us to figure out because originally we had hired a nanny for the summer and she was super nice and then she like ghosted me for like a week and then she like texted me back and was like, hey, I'm staying with my other family longer. It's like, okay, well, you could have not avoided me for a week and told me that so I would have more time. But I knew like this whole time I've been stressed out about childcare for like, I mean, honestly, since I was pregnant. But I knew like ultimately like the Lord was going to end up like providing. And we did find like a daycare. It's like a Christian day school that has like 4 infants, super small classes, and the people that work there are super nice. So I got on the waiting list back in like May of 2025 and I can't get in until August 2026. That's like how backed up it is. And childcare is like that here too because it's a big military community. But it's just hard to find, like, good places, and that's really the only one, like, I felt comfortable with, and it's hard to trust someone to, like, take care of your child because it's like I'm like, that's, like, a big responsibility, like, I just don't want anyone just taking care of my child. So, anyways, all that to say, we had a nanny, she till August when we were supposed to get into the daycare, and then she ghosted us, And so this past week, we're like, oh, what are we going to do? But um, I feel like the Lord really provided. I remember that one of my friends that I go to church with, she's a stay at home mom, and she had previously offered to watch James. And I was like, we'll just like do a nanny because it's a little bit out of my way on a drive to work. And so I was like, I'll just like get a nanny instead. But I feel like it's worth it to know, like, I trust her and I know her and James knows her to have someone like that to watch him, especially while he's so young. I feel like it's worth the extra drive for me. And also us to be able to help them out because she's a stay-at-home mom and give her a little bit of income as well. So it's like a win-win situation for both of us. So, and honestly, we'll have family visiting through the summer, so I don't think it'll be like all the time. And I feel like that's just the best thing that works for us now. But yeah, I've seen the Lord provide when I didn't know what we were going to do. But yeah, childcare is like the biggest stressor because it's so hard to trust anyone with your kid as a mom. Doing that when going back to work is like so much. And it's been like a heart tug for me. And I like so badly wish I didn't have to deal with this, but it's the life and the reality a lot of us have. And every time I step back and look at the whole season of motherhood so far, I have seen the same pattern that every time I felt anxious and every time I felt overwhelmed and every time I've thought like, I really don't know how I'm going to get this to work, like the Lord has shown up and he has answered my prayers like in ways that I didn't even know were possible. Like with my husband coming back, like at the exact perfect time that I like needed him back and the childcare situation and just everything. And I think that's one of my biggest takeaways from this season is that the things that feel so overwhelming to us are like never overwhelming to God. And the situations that make us anxious and the plans that fall through and the things that feel uncertain, none of it surprises him. Like he knows all of this that is going to happen. I feel like motherhood has really been teaching me to release control in a deeper way than I ever have before. Like I can plan and I can prepare and I can try to figure everything out, but ultimately I'm not the one holding it together like the Lord is. So as I step into this next season of going back to work and figuring out new routines and navigating all the emotions that come with that, I'm trying to remind myself of what God has already shown me over the last few months and that he is faithful and that he provides and he's going to continue to meet us in whatever comes next. And like he loves James even more than I do. So he's going to provide for him and protect him and all that.
Yeah, he is faithful. He does provide. He is going to meet us. And I feel like I can say that with more confidence this time than when I went back after my first was born. Like, since I've done this transition before, I don't feel like I'm as distraught as I was the first time. Like, I was definitely really distraught the first time. And there were a lot more variables at play for us that time around. Thankfully, it's not as complex this time. Our childcare setup is about as ideal as it could be, thanks to my mom or my mother-in-law, and my mom, I guess, comes in the summer, and then we have church family that's also going to be available, and we're also not moving this summer. Like, there's just a lot less at play this time around. I'm going back to work that, like, I know and is predictable versus, like, having to figure out new people and a new pumping room and all these different things. Like, I'm very much feeling okay with the situation that we have, but still going back to work brings a mix of emotions. I feel like I feel more nuanced just because I've done it and I know what it's like. And then there's the toddler factor versus just a baby. Because on one hand, I love being home with my kids. There are like so many things that I love about it, and they are clearly my number one priority. And I know that that's what's best for them, just the consistency of their mom being home, especially for the baby who's breastfeeding and doesn't know anything but me, but also especially for a toddler who can grasp that I'm leaving and wants to be with me. And that brings me so much joy. They also, and this is like getting into some vulnerable parts that I hope people can relate to, they're also a lot of work. I mean, they're supposed to be a lot of work. They're a intentional inconvenience, like we've talked about in episodes before. And if I lean into the self-focused parts of going back to work, then I can actually find a lot of excitement in it too. There are parts of working that are fulfilling, like contrasted to what I was saying earlier. I have more to show for my time at the end of the day, and I have time without interruptions, just sitting at my desk, time to drink my coffee while it's still hot, time to work out. I can have adult conversations. And I'll just throw this out there too. Pumping means that I have a whole 20 minutes every couple hours to myself, which is just not the case when I'm nursing at home, also trying to entertain a toddler. So there are things short term that are way easier and feel more fulfilling than being at home. And it is easier the second time because I know that you get into a routine and it does become the new normal and it does get less hard to walk out the door each day. There are things that I'm looking forward to about it, and I see why women want to work, especially since my kids will be with people who love them, family, church friends, people who I trust and who actually seem more qualified than me to teach and care for my kids. Like they've raised kids themselves and they know way more about child development and homeschooling and healthy cooking than I do. They're far more patient, they're steady. So there's this thought of like maybe it's actually better. Maybe it's better that I go to work and that they stay with these awesome women. This just makes me totally understand why so many women feel like staying home isn't for them. But there is just another layer to that because it's very easy in our culture to outsource part of our children's upbringing and tell ourselves they're loved, they're cared for, they're fine. And in many ways that's true. That is very true. But what I've reflected on is that raising children is not just about what's best for them in the short term. It is also one of the primary ways that God shapes us as parents. I've brought up the quote that my dad says numerous times on the podcast, but my dad has always said that having kids teaches you how to be an adult. And this is just another way to kind of talk about that quote. When I zoom out and look at the span of our lives and eternity, our connection as a family, the kind of home that we're building, our relationships with God, I don't just want my kids to be raised well. I want to be the one who bears that responsibility because it's not just forming them, it's forming me. And that forming, that shaping, that refining, it doesn't always feel good to me. Some days are really, really hard and I don't feel like I'm what's best for my kids some days because I'm really impatient and really at my wits' end. Hard does not mean that something is wrong. A lot of times it actually means that something is right. It means that the work matters and it means that the Lord is using it. And I think I'm just learning to lean into that because the hard parts of motherhood aren't something to escape. They're often the very place that God is doing the deepest work. And I know that there are so many variables that go into why women choose to work, like you mentioned. Like we felt those too, even just the financial considerations. Like we're literally going to be chopping our income in half. It's not a simple decision, but I do think it's worth asking honestly, like, am I choosing this because it's easier and it's something I want, or because it's what's right? Because if I'm being honest, like in many ways, it is way easier to walk out the door and to go to work, especially like with the toddler phase. Like baby was a little harder, like, but this toddler phase, like, it's hard. I guess I can't think of a better word than that. It's just hard. But it's also so fun and so rewarding. But going to work, it's easier physically, mentally, and I'm not carrying the same daily spiritual responsibility of disciplining and training my kids. But I also know that the stirring in my spirit, like I need to listen to that easy doesn't always mean better. And for me, that's not what's right based on the conviction that I feel in my heart. And in a way that I'm grateful that I've experienced being a working mom because I feel like I can speak I'm not just speaking from the outside, like I've lived both sides and I feel like that's helped me see that the harder path isn't always the wrong one. Sometimes it's the one that matters most. So that's kind of a soapbox tangent, but that's all that to say, for those of you who choose to work, I get it. And there are sometimes like situations and reasons that make a lot of sense to work, but just really evaluate your heart and think about like if what feels good and what looks good on paper is actually what the Lord is calling you to. Like it takes a lot to really lean into the heart. And I'm struggling with it and I'm gonna be vulnerable here and say that some days, yeah, I'm looking forward to walking out the door and handing over that responsibility to someone else who seems more qualified. But at the end of the day, like God gave me these specific children for a reason and he placed me as their mother for a specific reason. And he wants to do work not only in my children's hearts, but in my heart as well through being their mom. So, anyway, all that to say, I can look forward to parts of going back to work. If I'm being honest, I'm also not looking forward to the heart tug of it. Uh, but that kind of transitions us into how we're feeling about the podcast and social media as a whole. Liz, do you have any thoughts before I get into the social media and podcast aspect?
Yeah, when you were talking, I was just thinking, like, from a different perspective. I remember I was listening to, I haven't finished it, but Sadie Robertson put out like questions that people had asked her, like mom questions. And she was talking about kind of this pull of like working slash like doing what you're called to. And she was talking about like how she just really had to sit with the Lord and like ask if this is something that like he's really calling her to. And that's like individual
Mhm.
per person. Like, obviously, I think she's walking out her calling. Like, she's doing so much for the kingdom. And I think she has a great support system for her family. And that she was talking about how, like, she still felt called to what she was doing. So not to say, like, every mom should, like, take the same path we are. Like, you really have to sit with the Lord and see, like, where he
Mhm.
is calling you to, and, like, I've sat with the Lord and asked him, and I do not feel called to being in the military, but maybe some people feel called to their jobs, and, like, it's something that you have to, like, sit with God and kind of wrestle with. You can't just, like, follow what we're doing because this is what we feel called to do, or follow what Sadie's doing because that's what she feels called to do. Like, everyone has a different call in her heart, and I think she's doing amazing work for the kingdom, and so everyone has, like, a different path, but yeah.
And different variables, like the family structure, what exactly you're doing for a job. Like, there are jobs that are more flexible than the military, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not anti-working by any means, like, maybe I will work part-time, remote, or something that fits more in my schedule. Like, we'll have to see when I get there what I end up doing, but I know the military is not for my family just because, well, like, for Matt, like, Matt will likely stay in for a while till he's done having fun, but for me, it's just too much. Like, I don't think I can do it anymore.
Yeah. Another thing, I think Dr. Amen maybe said this, but there's a quote that guilty moms raise confused kids. And that to me, like I go back to that, like this is true even as a stay-at-home mom, even as I've been on maternity leave with Weston, there's been moments where, like, I'm dropping him off at a church at a childcare, and I'm, like, feeling kinda guilty about it because I know it's just because I wanna take some time to myself, and whenever, like, I feel guilty, he can sense it, and he doesn't like it, and he seems confused, like, but when I walk in, like, our church childcare, I'm confident walking in our church childcare, like, he's gonna have fun, I'm gonna go listen to the message, like, I'm confident when I take him there, and then he just goes right in and has fun. But if it's like the gym childcare, like he does not want that because I feel kind of guilty about that. Like he can sense that. So I just love that quote too. Like whatever you're gonna do, like if you fully feel called, either way, do it with confidence. And your kids are resilient; they'll be fine. Like trust me. Just make sure you're asking yourselves the hard, heart probing questions.
That's a quote that I've been clinging to, like, going back to work, like, trying, like, we have no other option, so I'm, like, trying not to feel guilty about it. He's too young to probably, like, really pick up on that at this point, but just, like, doing it with confidence because, I mean, it is what I'm called to do right now because I do have a year left, so it is my calling at the moment, so just walking that out with confidence and not being guilty about it. That's the quote I've been clinging to as well.
Yeah. So that kind of gets us into just social media. I mean, going back to work has also made me think about my capacity and where the podcast and social media fit in because the reality is like I struggle with perfectionism and hopefully this can make sense. With social media, like it's actually possible to curate something that's perfect. Like you can choose the best moments, the best angles, the best parts of your life. Like with enough time, planning, filming, editing, like you can make life look very perfect. And for me, that is where it becomes really dangerous because when I start down that path, I don't just want my Instagram to be perfect. I don't want just our podcast to be perfect. Like I want my life to be perfect too. My desire for a perfect Instagram in reality is really just a desire for a perfect life. And I was reading in the New Morning Mercies devotional the other day and I realized that longing is real, but if I'm trying to achieve it through Instagram, then it is very much misplaced. In Ecclesiastes it says that God has placed eternity in our hearts and that we all carry this deep longing for something perfect, something that's whole, something that feels like paradise, but when we forget that that paradise is something that God promises in the future when we're with Him, it makes us start to force this present moment to become it. We try to make our lives and our homes and even our social media look like something that this fallen world will never be. And instead, we're meant to live in hope, knowing that paradise is coming and stop demanding that from this world because that is not what it was meant to be. And this is just something that I've been thinking about when it comes to social media and motherhood as well. We kind of talked about how I think it's fine to work part-time, but I just I honestly don't know how moms who are full-time influencers do it. Like social media and just media in general, like it's a full-time job and I sometimes think it's presented in a way that makes it look like it's not, that you're just a stay-at-home mom sharing your life, but in reality, it takes a lot of time and attention, like time on your phone, time filming, time editing, time thinking about content, and that time has to come from somewhere, whether that's like from time with your kids or time with your husband. And I don't have a problem at all with social media being a part-time thing. In fact, that's something that I want to do with this podcast. Like clearly I'm doing that. But I do think that it can be a little bit dangerous to present it as if you're just at home with your kids when it's actually a job layered on top of that, because I think it can make the like quietly make other stay-at-home moms feel like they're not doing enough when in reality, like being fully present in your home is already a full calling in and of itself. So I've been thinking about that lately. Like just know like we are not influencers by any means, but just like the little bit that we've dabbled in that world, like it takes a lot of time. Like one sit down, I mean, I filmed me holding up baby clothes the other day, and that took me like an hour and a half to just like sit down, think about what I was gonna say, edit it together, post it. Just like putting the font on the stinking captions takes a lot of time. So just like I just want y'all to realize that the moms who are stay-at-home moms, like they probably have time throughout their day where they are stepping away from their kids and having someone else watch their kids to go edit their content. So just make sure that to me on Instagram sometimes comes across as like, "Oh, how can I not do this podcast super well while also being a mom?" Like, I'm like, "Wow, I thought it'd be easier to be home and able to do part-time things," and just anyway, that's kind of a reality check for our expectations. And all of that, how I feel about perfectionism and all that has kinda just shaped how we're thinking about the podcast. We don't wanna just sit in front of the camera and say empty words, like, we don't want to rush content or fill space just for the sake of like posting something. We truly do want what's real. And honestly, that feels harder and harder to find right now, especially with AI. It's becoming harder and harder to even discern what's real anymore. Like there's some things I see online. I'm like, I don't even think that's real. Like if something looks perfect and polished, like perfectly aesthetic and put together, my first thought almost is that even real? And we don't want to contribute to that. Like we don't want the conversations that are just rushed and that we feel tempted to use AI to create. Like, we want conversations that come from time spent thinking, praying, and actually sitting with the Lord. And we don't want to overload ourselves to the point where we're creating without actually having time to reflect on what God might be calling us to share. So, because of that, tangent again, we are shifting the format of Mind Your Mission slightly. We're going to be moving to 2 episodes a month with sometimes a extra guest episode. And the goal with that is just to create space for ourselves to think deeply about what we're sharing instead of just rushing out content every single week. But then we're also adding something that we're really excited about to Mind Your Mission. At the end of each month, we want to host a Zoom call for anyone who wants to join where we can discuss that month's topic together, because like we've said over and over, we don't just want to talk into microphones. We want real conversations and real community. So if you're interested in joining that conversation, who knows, it might end up just being me and Liz having a conversation. That's fine too. But if you're interested in joining that conversation, just look out for more information on when those calls will be and how to join. Also, if you've ever had a topic on your heart or something that God has been teaching you, we would genuinely love to hear from you, either hear your story and chat with you, or if you'd ever want to come on the podcast and share your story, we'd love to talk with you about that too. So yeah, that's kind of like our new direction for Mind Your Mission as we get ready to go back to work. We are thankful for all of you that listen. Liz, do you have any other thoughts to share on just like social media or the podcast direction?
Well, I feel like you kind of chatted about all. I'm excited for this new format. And like you said, we don't just want to like put out an episode just to put out an episode. Like I have really enjoyed the podcast this year because I feel like we have been trying to be intentional about our episodes and like really putting thought into them. And I feel like we've gotten good feedback too about that. So that's really what we're trying to do is just produce like good quality episodes and content. Like I love sitting down. My favorite part about this is just sitting down and getting to talk and like talk through the word and my feelings and emotions and all that. The social media side isn't like my favorite part. Like I'm like, I don't really know what to post and all that stuff. So thanks for bearing with us as we like figure this out. But it's a fun hobby for us and something that we really get to enjoy doing. So the fact that you're listening, it means a lot to us. And I'm excited to also like start to build more of a community so we can like see more of our audience and who we're talking to, because I think it makes episodes more meaningful.
Yeah. So that being said, this season is definitely feeling like a transition in a lot of ways as we go back to work and just raising little kids in general and just learning how to steward our time well as Christian women, Christian moms. But we're excited about what God might do with this new season of Mind Your Mission. And thank you all for being here and for walking through these conversations with us. Let us know if you have any thoughts on just what we talked about the tension of work and motherhood and how you've personally experienced that tension throughout your life. And it might look different than what we've experienced, and that's totally fine, but we would love to hear about your side of what that's looked like. And yeah, follow us on Instagram at mind_your_mission and make sure that you're just following along so you can see how you can join those monthly Zoom calls in the future. And with that, this has been Erin and Liz helping you mind your mission.